Hey guys, Fortune here is from TeamMisplayed here, bringing you a deck profile of a deck that I'm currently be trying out for the next format because I really kind of enjoy the deck sort of, and it gives me extra or it gives me some time to think about whether I want to play Cliff Forts or not. But this deck really is a force to be reckoned with because it's been topping multiple events. It's probably the best deck of the format. Unfortunately, no offense to Shadows. Shadows is a really good deck, but this deck really gets in on Shadows and really hits them hard. So, without further ado, let's get into the deck profile of the Tellarknight. So, first I play Tellarknight, a Nukaila, or as we're gonna call it, the Predator, because you want to be able to send Denebs to the graveyard so you can use Altair faster. Plus, I play Alsham in this deck, and I'll explain why when I get to it, but it allows you to dump that as well. Or it actually allows you to dump whatever you need, honestly. Triple Altair, because this deck requires you to have like multiple. It's very deck box, or it's really toolbox deck that allows you to just really abuse Exceeding. So why not use Altair, which allows you to special summon any Tellarknight monster from your graveyard. The only problem is you cannot attack with anything other than Tellarknights, but there's ways to work around that, and it's still a very good combo nonetheless. Triple Deneb, because Deneb searches all your Statellar. Sorry, Satellarknights. So it allows you to search all your Satellarknight monsters. It is the generic Stratos of the deck, and it gets its effect whenever it's summoned. So it's pretty good. One Alsham. Alsham is there for getting in on your opponent. Sometimes you'll run out of sometimes you may run out of targets in your deck for Predator, and you can use him to dump Alsham to the graveyard. Alsham's in the graveyard, and maybe your opponent has like 1600 life points left, and you have an Altair in hand and an Alsham, and your opponent has a really high monster but no back row. It's good for that situation because it allows you to cowboy your game. Because it burns your opponent for 1,000 if it's summoned in any way. So, and finally, one Vega to round off all the Tellarknight monsters, because Vega allows for stupid combos with this deck where you can use Vega and Altair to get the Neb from the graveyard and then just make Xyz from there. Or you can even use Vega to get the Neb out, or even dump stuff with the Predator, but Vega puts in a lot of work. I play it at 3. Some people play it at 2 or even 1, because sometimes you want to search it. But why would you not play it at 3? Because it allows you to really just utilize your Tellarknights. And finally, one Honest to round off the monsters, because this deck doesn't have a big boss monster in the actual main deck. It can lose to a lot of monsters that have 1900 attack or higher. So Honest really just helps protect them more often than not. That's it for monsters. Let's get into the magics. We have 2 Rhoda because it's at 2, and this whole deck's pretty much warrior, and you want to see most of your combo pieces, so it's a good card to use to get them. 1 Mind Control for the mirror match. This is more of a side card per se to me, but I don't have any thoughts on what I actually want to put in the deck. It allows you to use your opponent's level forge to make XC plays. Plus, it's pretty good in disrupting your opponent by using their cards. 2 Soul Charge, because this deck runs out of resources a lot. You want to see 2 Soul Charge just because you can really utilize the effects of the Tellarknights that are in your graveyard that can really help drive more advantage towards you, and Soul Charge is a pretty good card anyway, so it's why not run it? 3 Upstart Goblin. The reason why I play 3 Upstart Goblin over Potted Duality is because Upstart Goblin allows you to see 1 card first off, and it doesn't inherit the deck through not being able to special summon for the rest of the turn, which is a problem this deck suffers from. If it can't special summon, this deck really shuts down. And Potted Duality doesn't. I mean, I like Potted Duality, honestly, but like I can't find room for it. First off, and second off, I don't want to play multiples of it to really hinder the deck a lot. I mean, it sucks that Upstart Goblin's my only choice, but hey, what are you gonna do? And finally, 1 Book of Moon, because this deck really struggles against decks that don't allow you special summon. And there's one particular deck that really can utilize that, or can really shut it down, and that's Shadows. Shadows have one, that and Burning Abyss, I guess, have a really good matchup against it. So Book of Moon really helps like stop certain things from happening, especially if it'll face up Windows out. It just sucks if that's out, then you can't really use Tellarknights. That's it for the magics for the traps. We got 1 bottomless generic, 1 TT. This is not that good honestly right now because Burning Abyss is a complete floater deck in itself, and the Shadows, if they're TT'd, then they get their effects as well. So it's not that good right now per se. So, but it's good against the mirror match, especially if they're setting up to like really get in on you. You can TT their board, get it out of the way, and then you can get on them next turn. 2 D Prison, because this deck really does suffer from monsters that really have high attack. D Prison really gets in on them, and it doesn't pressure opponent, but this is a back row format, so it's a pretty good back card to have, and like it does sort of put pressure on your opponent when you have multiple back row, and D Prison really puts in a lot of work, especially against Shadows or the mirror match. 1 or 2 breakthrough skill. Decks that have monster effects that hinder your deck, you can't really play around them, especially Winda. Breakthrough skill is just really good generic effect negation, and it allows you to really play around Winda pretty well. So that's a good 2 for it right there. A card that really has been seeing some hype, so to speak, and I kind of like it too. It's a card that some guy, I forget what tournament, I think it was the Tuscaloosa one or the Atlanta Regionals. I'm not sure. I think Atlanta had an ARG. I'm not sure exactly, but this card's called Balgard Howling, and what it does is if a warrior type monster on your side of the field is targeted for attack or card effect, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack of that face-up monster targeted with this card, and if you do, return it to the hand. So it really does get rid of, it actually works well against Shadows, but it really does put in a lot of work, especially against an opponent that runs Soul Chargers and Solemn Warnings. Paying life points is very key in this format, and if you're paying too much, this card can really punish you and like win steal games sometimes. So it's an interesting tech of choice, but and I'm not going to take credit for some guy who chose to run it over me who just happened to stumble upon it. But yeah, that's pretty much what I think of it. It's pretty good. 1 Compulsive actually is very good this format because a lot of cards float to the graveyard if they're sent there, or float stuff when they're sent to the graveyard. So getting stuff back to the hand or extra deck or wherever they need to go, like getting them away from the graveyard really helps. 1 Vanity's Emptiness. This is sort of reminiscent to the real deck I'm building, which I'll have another deck profile later on because it'll be changed up a bit. But Vanity's Emptiness, like I have 1, so I'm gonna try it at 1. It allows you to stop your opponent from going off on their turn, and there's ways to play around it in this deck really well. So it's not like it's a bad card and it hinders Tellarknight, so I mean you could play around it pretty well in this deck, and it's just a generically good card right now. Triple Call Haunted because, like I said, this deck does suffer from losing a lot of resources fast, and the best way to really regain it is to use cards you have to reborn them whichever way you can, either through Soul Charge or this card. Plus, this card allows you to open up plays on your opponent's turn when they've set cards. Let's say like your opponent like sets an MST and you flip up the call on it at the end. It's like really good. So I mean, it really is like a really good card in this deck. Next we run 2 Wiretap because you want your combos to go through, and a lot of deck, and this is a back row heavy format, especially in the mirror. You really don't want to see certain cards like played, so it just makes it very good when you hit their cards with wiretaps. So, plus Wiretap's a generically good card in itself, and you don't want to run Trap Stun in this deck because it just doesn't work. Next we run 2 Stellar Nova Alpha. The reason why I only run 2 is because I thought 3 was cloggy. Now people can disagree with that, but I feel like if you're running 2 of these and 2 Wiretap, you're pretty much set as far as back row is concerned. But if for those you don't know, Alpha allows you to stop any kind of effect that activates as long as you send one face-up Tellarknight monster to the graveyard. And if you destroy the card, you get to draw a card. So it allows you to draw and allows you to negate. It's a pretty good card. It allows you to set up a lot of plays too. So, and finally, Solemn Warning because it's pretty generic. That's it for the main deck. The deck's gonna change up definitely. The extra deck's kind of also in the works because there's some cards I will refuse to have, but we'll see. First we have M7 because you run Omega in this deck. It's generic and it's also a generically good card. In conjunction with Omega, it allows you to recycle your Tellarknights or even wreck your opponent's play. So it's like, next, 1 Evil Swarm Ouroboros because it's a generic rank 4 that requires 3 level 4 monsters. So when you go off with Altair and Vega, plus, excuse me, I kind of burped. But it also has some very obscure effects that if you can get off this card can really just disrupt your opponent. Once the Tellarknight, Delta Thermos. But this card, I would like to run at 2. I can't find room right now. I think there's a couple cards, though, I can cut from this extra deck, and it can work. But this card allows you to, while it has materials, all your Tellarknights can summon without problems, and then you can detach one to destroy a card on the field. Plus, when it's sent to the graveyard, it floats out a Tellarknight from your from your deck, so it's pretty good. Playing at 2, I wish I could, but like I said, this is like a prototype version of the deck anyways. 1 Constellar Omega, like I said, the M7 play is viable, plus it's a good card where like you can use the attachments to really just get in on your opponent because they try to, use a spell or trap. You just use Omega's effect and they can't use it. 1 Black Ship of Corn, this card burns your opponent. It's pretty generic. It's 2100. And it sends cards to the graveyard, which is pretty good. The only problem I have with it is that a lot of cards have more attack than it, so it's like this card can't really put in as much work as you would think. However, if anything, it probably gets flipped out with a second Delta Thermos. So 1 Honors Arc for the mirror match. You really don't want to be playing this card in Tellarknights or against the Shadol matchup because they get their effects still. But Honors Arc allows you to hit pretty hard in the mirror match, or even the Burning Abyss match if you're not running up against a Dante or any of their Burning Abyss cards. So it's still a generically good card. Next we have one heroic champion, Excalibur. This card can also get flipped out, but it's there because it's a light warrior that can be hit with honest, plus it doubles its attack, so it's pretty good. 2 Castell. The reason why I run 2 Castell is because this deck can struggle sometimes in the Shaddoll matchup, and Castell is the best card against Shadolls in my opinion. In fact, it's probably the best card right now to go into because Honor's Art can lose to it. What else can lose to it? There's a lot of generic cards that can lose to Castell just because it just returns cards, plus it flips them face down. So Castell at 2, I mean, I like Castell, and I plan on actually using 2 Castell in real life, so it's pretty good. 1 Exxonite, like, mass removal is needed sometimes, especially in a deck that doesn't have too many monsters. You really don't want to be seeing traps and your place disrupted, so Exxonite can get in and really help clear a board. Plus, I own one now. Sadly, I spent the money to own one, but I own one, so why not use it? Next, we have Lavolval Chain because it allows you to stack your deck for the next play, and it allows you to put Deneb in the graveyard and set up for the next play as well. So it allows you to set up, pretty much. It's a good setup card. 1 Daiguster Emerald because this deck really, like I said, it runs completely dry on the different types of resources it has. So Emerald, this is just another way to really just get in and help recycle resources. So and you know, it's 1800, but that's not the best, you know. 1 Abyss Dweller, this card's still very relevant. Like, if you know that the hands, even though they're kind of dead, like, some people tend to side the hands still. And then, if your opponent's playing Shadolls, this card really does kind of help against some of their effects that happen in the graveyard. Just activate an Abyss Dweller when they use Shadoll Fusion, and, you know, they can't get their effects, but then it makes them change their play, so. But Abyss Dweller does still kind of put in work this format, especially since I did see a Mermail's kind of top. And I don't know the relevance of Hat right now, but that deck can still be a dark horse if you come to find it. Next we have 1 Cowboy to steal games. That's just simple. And finally, 1 Rhapsody the Berserk. Or Rhapsody and Berserk. This card's against Lightsworn. Even in the mirror match, you can hit their Deneb and Altair, or whatever you need in the graveyard, then equip it to 1 of your Xyz. It's really a good target in Soul Charge. This is sort of a generic side, so bear in mind this is kind of like a prototype, and some cards will change depending on, like, you know, where I can, if I can find. But 1 max or 2 max C, because sometimes, like, Tellarknights go off the mirror match, really max C just really gets in on them, and they have to stop eventually, and you can start garnering advantage. Effect Failure against the mirror match as well. Plus, it kind of helps in the Shadoll matchup, especially for decks that, like, have, or especially against the flip effects. Plus, it also helps against the Burning Abyss, because you can, you know, hit their tour guides and then it just slows them down. 3 Nobleman of Crossout. This is more for the Shadoll. In fact, this whole extra is kind of built for the Shadoll matchup because I kind of use it to test with my teammate Gun to really find out what I can really do with this deck. Nobleman, if you guys, for those of you who don't know, which I'm assuming all of you know what this does, but why not explain it anyways. This card allows you to destroy 1 face down monster and remove from play, and if it was a flip effect monster, you can banish all copies from both players' decks. So if they have them in the hand, I mean, it sucks, but, like, this card can kind of hurt Shadolls, especially if you can hit certain cards. Like, if you have Falco in that deck can't Synchro Summon anymore if they don't play the Lightsworns in the deck. If you hit the Hedgehog, they can't search their fusions, which means they gotta go back and draw them now, or send them to the graveyard and use Core to recycle, or even Construct to recycle. If you hit dragons, they lose their MSTs. If you hit the Squamata, you can they can't send extra stuff from the grave. And if you hit the beasts, well, if you hit the beast, then you they can't draw. So I mean, it's pretty good for generic getting rid of stuff. Triple MST. This is kind of a thing because I want to throw those in the deck because this deck isn't well equipped to protect itself. So I would like to throw in at least one MST, two MSTs into the deck. But this card allows you to get around Light Imprisoning Mirror and Vanities if they're up. Finally, we have my tech of choice, non-fusion area, which actually has been selling out in a lot of places. So if you guys can find a non-fusion area, I suggest you go pick them up while they're still cheap. This card, neither player can fusion summon. There's a video on the channel. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to see like what my thoughts are on this card. But yeah, non-fusion area. And finally, Shadow Impersonating Mirror, because like I said, the Shadow matchup is a pretty wrecking matchup in this. So yeah, that's the deck. It's nothing compared to the deck that I showed off earlier, which was my Masked Knight deck, which I still think is a very fun, creative deck that I'm probably going to try to use when Shadow Mist and Dark Law come out over here. But it's a very like the Tellarknight deck that I was profiling is just, you know, it's like, oh, I guess I have two. Oh no, what I didn't do was I kind of didn't. What did I remove? There was a card that I removed before I started. Oh yeah, removed one Vanities. But yeah, so it's like one of those decks where I kind of like just put together randomly. Like one day I put it together, fell in love with it sorta, and then I just said, you know what, fuck you if excuse the language, I said pretty much that, but I said if I end up pulling some Tellarknight stuff, I might end up picking up the deck. Ended up pulling a Deneb, so kind of inspired me to really get in on it. Gun Monkey pulled a Deneb, and then I ended up ordering a Deneb while it was like $10. So actually it was 30 at the time. Yeah, I kind of waited on it too long. But anyways, that's it for this video. Leave in the comment section below. Tell me what you think of the build I have. Of course, there's always changes on the deck. I'll always keep you constantly updated with it. But till the next video, this has been Just for Fun 9422, or not Just for Fun. That's another channel of mine. You can look it up. But this has been 14 years from TeamMisplayed signing out. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to look out for a couple of other videos. You'll see a lot more uploading from Gun, but for me, like, I kind of have started school, so I'm gonna be sort of swamped for the first couple weeks. So if you know, just stuff. And also, I'm actually going to be doing a sort of update on something, and it'll actually go up with this deck. Plus, I have a opening that I have. So, anyways, that's enough of me ranting. This has been TeamMisplayed. Sign out. Later.